What is up, friends? There's a plane going by. What is up, friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jess. I'm the creator of Pinkrex, and today I wanted to go over my list of my top 10 fastest growing common plants. If you might happen to be new here, welcome, first of all. And second of all, I make videos about plants, video games, and lots more. So if you like that kind of content and you haven't done this already, please spray down the like button's toilet seat with Super 77. Also, please subscribe to the channel down below and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my future uploads. When I say common plants, I just mean plants that you could find pretty much at any department store or at any Walmart, garden center, you name it. You can find them. Your grandma probably has one. That sort of thing. So common plants is just meaning plants that are easy to get a hold of that are probably cheap. I think the number one plant that people think of generally when they think of a fast-growing plant that's easy to take care of, that's really common, is golden pothos. Golden pothos is actually Peperomia pinnatum aureum, or just Peperomia aureum for short. It is the kind of speckly variety of pothos that you see. It has these nice yellow golden flecks in it, hence the common name. But it is super common and super easy to grow and obnoxiously easy to propagate. I have a really huge golden pothos in the garage. I have a golden pothos in my bedroom, and I have two just little water propagation jars of golden pothos cuttings. These are actually from my smaller plant. The one I have in the garage is quite large. But these have been in here for just a couple weeks, and they have a ton of water roots from sitting in these little jars. They don't get any direct light or anything. They're just super easy and fun to grow. I would say super fun to propagate as well. If you're looking for a plant for your friend or relative or neighbor that might not particularly have a green thumb, golden pothos is definitely the way to go. The second plant on my common fast-growing plants list has got to be Monstera deliciosa. A lot of people will also call this plant Swiss cheese plant. I never called it that. As an avid lover of Swiss cheese, I find that offensive. Monstera deliciosa has definitely risen in popularity over the past, I would say, 2 to 3 years. Everybody saw this big, beautiful plant that's easy to care for, that has these big green leaves, and thought, I would like one of those in my kitchen. And that, friends, is how lots and lots of department stores started carrying Monsteras. I actually got my first Monstera from Fleet Farm, of all places. Quite a few years ago. They just had it kind of sitting on a shelf. It was the only one they had, and it was just gorgeous, and I had to have it, so I got it. It was $20 at the time, and I think they have stayed the same price for quite a while. Mine was small. I think you can get a pretty large Monstera these days at places like Lowe's and Home Depot for $25. But they grow really fast, they get really big, impressive leaves, and they're just really easy to take care of. I even gave one to my mom, and she hasn't killed it yet, so you know. An important thing to note about Monsteras is if you plan to get one, plan for it to be big. Don't plan for it to stay small. If you get a small Monstera, it's not going to stay that way very long. They grow really fast and they grow really big. So just be prepared for that. If you put it in a corner, it's probably going to be just fine in the corner, but it will take up the whole corner. The third plant on my fast growing common plants list has got to be philodendron Araceae, or Heartleaf philodendron. This is mine. My grandma has an absolutely massive one growing on top of her cabinets. She's had it since I was a kid, and I have always been amazed by how giant and dark green it is. And mine is not as giant or dark green. I'm not super sure why, but it is easy to take care of, so I will give it that. I pretty much just neglect this plant and water it when it looks sad. I'm thinking in order for it to get bigger than it is, it needs probably a little bit more light, but this one I keep up in a corner, and it gets no direct light whatsoever. It does get a lot of bright indirect light up there, and I think it's just happy enough with that. It has had a few sport variegated leaves over the years, but it is certainly not variegated by any means. It is just a happy green climbing plant, and I love it. I think in this pot there are 4 vines, and they're all pretty small. It has gone from climbing to vining to climbing. It just depends on if I keep up with pinning it up, because it is constantly pushing out new growth. If it gets too much warmer in here, I am going to cook. The fourth plant on my list today is going to be Hoya carnosa, or Hoya crimson queen. This is just a little plant I have in a 4-inch pot that sits on my husband's desk. And the leaves on this thing are so unique and so cool. They are kind of like a semi-succulent. They're very waxy, they're very shiny, and they have this really pretty white variegation around all the edges. I just love them. I got this plant as just a couple of leaves on a stem on a cutting, and it has since become a whole plant, so it definitely is a fast-growing plant considering what it's being compared to, but Not quite as fast as other plants like pothos or monstera. Very pretty. 10 out of 10. The number 5 plant on my fast-growing common plants list is going to be any type of Ficus elastica. I have several Ficus outside. Actually, I grow them outside in the summer. My largest Ficus was sold to me as a small tree. You know, it was already a tree, but it was small. And it is Ficus elastica pink panther, and it is absolutely gorgeous. The leaves come out and they are this really pretty dark pink color, and as they open up they get lots of white and pink variegation on them, and they're just really cool. I've always had good luck with Ficus, but I've had other people, like my friend who gave me the stick, say that if it gets even a little bit unhappy, the leaves will all fall off. I think one of the biggest things when it comes to keeping rubber trees is, some of my main tips for keeping any type of Ficus or rubber tree happy would be to never ever overwater them and to make sure that they have a really good amount of bright light. Some types of Ficus, like the burgundy, will do okay in minimal light situations, but they'll get kind of leggy and scraggly and weird. If you want them to be full and bushy and pretty, you need to make sure that they're getting at least some direct morning light, otherwise some really bright indirect light throughout the day. The number 6 plant on my The number 6 plant on my leaf. The number 6 plant on my list is going to be Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, or Monstera guinea. It is not a Monstera. It was labeled that for a long time, and it's not a Monstera. I've had lots of people try to tell me it's a Monstera. I promise you, they look similar. It's a different genus. They're related, they're not the same. One of the cool things about Rhaphidophora tetrasperma is that pretty much no matter what situation it is in, it will grow and put out new leaves. It's just that if it has more light and it has something to climb, it'll put out fenestrated leaves, whereas if it doesn't, it'll just kind of vine. Similar to how golden pothos does, but golden pothos requires a lot more light and a lot more climbing before it can reach having fenestrations in its leaves. Rhaphidophora tetrasperma is really interesting, I would say, visually, just to have in any part of your home, and if you put it climbing up something, if you pin it up, it'll do just fine. It doesn't necessarily need to grab onto something to be a successful plant. And I should mention that they grow like absolute crazy. Like I could not keep up with it. That's why I had to sell it. It just got too big. It climbed all the way up my wall in the corner before I actually broke down and sold it. The 7th plant on my list is going to be Peperomia obtusifolia, or baby rubber plant. Not rubber tree, it's a rubber plant. Rubber tree is toxic, rubber plant is not. Peperomia in all of its beautiful forms are non-toxic plants. They're really great for pet owners. They are a semi-succulent leaf. They grow up to be kind of like little trees, and they're just so darn cute. I can't handle how cute they are. There are lots of variegated forms of Peperomia. Otherwise, there are also lots of types of Peperomia that vine. There are types of Peperomia that do all kinds of different things. But the one that I would say I've noticed grows the fastest has got to be Peperomia obtusifolia. It is the type of rubber plant that has kind of the largest leaves of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. And I have a couple of cuttings of variegated forms and non-variegated forms. I don't have any adult form plants yet, but even since from having the cuttings in water for a month or two, they already have whole little plants grown off of them with many, many little leaves. Long snap. So I'm very excited to get them in soil and see how fast they grow once they are moved to a growing situation that isn't just water. The next plant on my list is Araceae woodii, otherwise known as string of hearts. I got this plant as just 3 little pairs of hearts on a stem, I think probably a year and a half ago, and it has since obviously grown quite a bit, and it is all tangled, and this is my fault. Why did I do this? One thing apparently you have to be careful of is not to like bonk it against itself, because it can't handle it. It will get tangled. It will become like the world's largest knot. You'll have to pay someone to untangle it. It'll take up the next 4 years of your life. You might as well drop out of college. No! And I lost a heart. Oh well. So several years later, once you've finally untangled it, after trying to show it off in a video, it's grown to be quite a long situation of plant material. That was all I was trying to show. Was that so hard? Did you have to become all tangled that way? That was pretty sassy of you. Quite rude. But this is a really easy plant to keep, I would say, as long as you pay attention to when the leaves towards the base start to lose their sort of succulentness. When they get to be a little bit flimsy, a little bit floopy, a little bit sad, that's when you know it's time to give it a water. You want to make sure to thoroughly saturate the soil and not leave it in any amount of standing water, because it will definitely not like that and be very unhappy and probably get tangled again. And it will tell your mom. And it's just, you know, it's kind of spiteful that way, but I still like it. It'll tell on you. It'll definitely tell on you. and then your mom's gonna call you, it's gonna be a whole thing. The second to last plant on my list is silver satin pothos, also known as scindapsus pictus argyraeus. And it is so springy and bouncy, and I keep cutting it and it keeps growing back more and more, and this leaf is so pretty, I can't. But I know that silver satin pothos is a prime shingling plant if you're looking to get something on a moss board. That is a video I plan to do very soon, so stay tuned for that. This plant has received pretty much neglect and given me nothing but love, so I do think this is an extraordinarily easy plant to care for, and it is super, super fast growing. It is thicker leaved than other types of climbing plants that I can think of, especially like pothos. The leaves on a scindapsus are generally a little bit thicker, and they have this nice kind of satiny finish to them, hence silver satin pothos. So this, despite being called silver satin pothos, is a scindapsus, just as a note. Like how golden pothos is commonly called devil's ivy, but it's not an ivy. This is commonly called silver satin pothos, but it's not a pothos. A little bit confusing, but I do think that this is one of the best plants to recommend for people if they're not super sure what to get, but they already have a pothos. My 10th and final, fast-growing, relatively common plant is Monstera and Rhaphidophora. This, when I first got it, was a huge hype plant in the plant community, I would say. It was pretty hard to find, and I actually got mine as a cutting and have since cut it back again quite a few times. It was one of the first plants I had. I was lucky enough to have one. This one that I have on the pole here is a wide form Adansonii. I also have a narrow form Adansonii. The only difference is that this one has kind of bigger leaves with more intense fenestrations. I would say of all of the plants that I've listed that are fast growing, this one definitely has the most visual appeal just because it's so weird. Some people call this one the Swiss cheese vine because it has so many holes in it. They don't require a ton of light, although I do have to say that since it's been getting more light in this room compared to where it was previously, it definitely has a lot more fenestrations going on. So that is a bonus to keeping it in a room with a little bit more light. Also, putting it on a moss pole versus having it just vining often leads to having larger leaves with better fenestrations as well. Yeah. I would say this is one of my favorite plants too. But I have a lot of favorite plants, so I don't know. But it's definitely one of my favorites. But that's going to do it for today, guys. So if there's any super common, fast-growing plants that I missed, please let me know in a comment down below. And if you got something out of today's video and you haven't done this already, please remember to spray down the like button's toilet seat with Super 77 and subscribe to the channel down below. Please turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my future uploads. And if you'd like, you can find me on Instagram or TikTok. I'm pinkrex with 2 X's on all platforms, so go check it out over there. I have a lot of planty content over on TikTok. So whether I see you on another platform or down in the comment section below, please comment something. Just know I really appreciate you being here, and I still have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, thanks, bye. I feel like I'm just gonna say that until I have some shaky semblance of an idea of what I'm doing, which might take a while.